This is Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review, and this is the SEC West Division preview video for the upcoming college football season. This is it. This is my last division preview video. We've been looking at all 5 Power 5 conferences in college football. We're going to wrap things up with the SEC West. College football season, of course, it actually begins Friday night with Hawaii, California, but the first full week schedule begins next Thursday, September 1st. I will be having weekly videos at Sportsbook Review for the upcoming college football, throughout the college football season, looking at every week's slate from a betting perspective, talk about a few games of betting interest that I like, so look for that throughout the college football season. Let's get to it and look at these SEC West teams, the division that everybody always says is one of the best, if not the best, in college football. We'll see if it is this season. We're going to start by looking at the reigning, defending national champions, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Right away, you notice that they will be replacing a quarterback, Jake Coker gone. Replacing him will be either Cooper Bateman, Jalen Hurts, or Blake Barnett, although Cooper Bateman seems to be the one with the edge to be that starting quarterback. He's got the most experience of the bunch. Obviously, Derrick Henry, Heisman Trophy winner, gone at running back. So Bo Scarborough and Damian Harris, they're going to have to step up at that position. Calvin Ridley, a tremendous wide receiving talent, is back this season for the Crimson Tide. Robert Foster as well. That should help at the receiving core. Only 5 starters back on defense. A lot of teams, that's a concern, but Alabama, the way they recruit and the kind of talent that they're able to bring in on defense, I wouldn't worry about that too much. I think they'll be fine. 6 of the top 9 linebackers returning. Secondary, they lose Cyrus Jones, but the pass defense should still be solid. Schedule is definitely going to be tough for Alabama this season. It is every year, but 3 strong SEC teams, LSU, Tennessee, Ole Miss, and they have to play all 3 of those games on the road. But you never put anything past Alabama or Nick Saban. They'll be in the hunt, and anything less than a college football playoff appearance for this team would be a major surprise. The LSU Tigers are next up. They're a team that had a very odd season last year, had a good start, rocky middle, strong finish, and a finish that maybe saved Les Miles' job. I mean, there was rumblings late in the season that he was about to get fired, and sure enough, LSU goes on a nice little run at the end, and they keep him on for at least this season. And now the expectations very high with LSU. 17 returning starters for this team. Major expectations that they could possibly win this West Division. Brandon Harris returns at quarterback. He can't be worse. The passing game probably can't be worse. 105th last year in passing yards. They're going to have to improve somewhat throwing the football. I know it's still going to be a run-heavy offense led by Leonard Fournette at running back, but still, it's going to have to be a team that does improve at least a little bit throwing the football this season. They do lose both starting tackles on the O-line, but they did recruit a lot of quality depth on that unit, so they should be okay. 8 of their top 10 players on that O-line returning. The passing game is big, though. It's got to get some improvement there. The defense is exceptional. I mean, it's going to be phenomenal. One of the best secondaries in the country. They should have a solid linebacking core, strong defensive line. I know they have a new defensive coordinator this year, Dave Aranda, coming over from Wisconsin, where he did a great job with that Badger defense over the last 3 seasons. So I think they've got a very good, sharp defensive mind coming in with the talent to go with that mind on the defensive side of the football. So LSU to me is going to be a very tough team to score points in bunches against. The road through this division, never easy, but the good news is they play Alabama and Ole Miss, their other 2 main competitors in this division, at home. That's a big thing for them. I think they got a chance to win this division, but they got to get better quarterback play for it to happen. Ole Miss Rebels next up on our preview. Ole Miss, to me, they've got the talent to contend in the SEC West, no question. They've improved their record each year under head coach Hugh Freeze. Ole Miss 11-5 in SEC play the last 2 seasons. They've got maybe the best quarterback in the division coming back, the nephew of Buffalo Bills legend Jim Kelly, that being Chad Kelly, back for his senior season as the quarterback of this Rebels team. There are question marks around the pieces around Chad Kelly, though, on this offense. I mean, new running backs, Laquan Treadwell, star wide receiver, gone. And have to find some guys to replace him to throw the football to. Offensive line is much less experienced. for this team. A lot of youngsters in that group. And on defense, only 5 starters back on that side of the football. But the good news is pass rushing shouldn't be a problem. Marquise Haynes-Fidel Brown, very good at that spot. Linebacking core has 6 of the top 9 tacklers back, which is definitely a good thing. The secondary should be solid, and the fact that they are upper class heavy, lots of juniors and seniors in that secondary should help Ole Miss in that regard. The schedule for Ole Miss is very tough to begin the season. You look at that September schedule, 3 of the first 4 weeks they're playing Florida State in non-conference play, and then they got Alabama and Georgia. So it's a very difficult start to the season for them. They also must play LSU and Texas A&M, both on the road. Those won't be easy. So again, schedule tough. Offensive line has question marks, but the quarterback is really good, and he has a chance maybe to take Ole Miss very far and keep them right in the conversation here in the SEC West. Arkansas Razorbacks next up in our SEC West preview. Arkansas looking to build on a strong finish to last season. They went 6-1 down the stretch. The question is, are they going to be able to build on that? They lose Brandon Allen at quarterback, and he played really well down the stretch for Arkansas. A big reason why they won 6 of their last 7 games. We'll see if his little brother Austin Allen, who's going to take over the reins at quarterback for Arkansas, can get the job done. Concern for me, only 47 career starts and 2 returning starters on the offensive line, and that's a major component of this offense. It's a run-oriented attack under Brett Bielema, the head coach. They want to run the football. They want to do ground and pound. So that offensive line and their ability to open holes for that ground attack going to be a big, big concern for Arkansas. We'll see if they're able to run the football the way they'd like to with so much turnover on that offensive line. The good news is the defense is going to be pretty good. 9 starters back. Defensive line should be very formidable, led by Jeremiah Ledbetter, Dietrich Wise. Definitely stout against the run. They should be. Last year, the secondary struggled a bit, but the fact that they have a lot more experience in that secondary this season should help. Senior cornerback Jared Collins as well, returning in that secondary, should stabilize that group to a certain extent. I think Arkansas has money-making potential this season. They're one of those teams that, I think once that offensive line sorts itself out, they're going to be able to run the football with some level of effectiveness, and usually teams like that can be a little bit of a tough out, especially when they're in the underdog role catching points, which Arkansas likely will be in a lot of their games, especially against the upper echelon in this division. And it's a team that's probably going to trend under the total, especially early in the season. Look to bet Arkansas under some lower scoring games, probably in the making for Arkansas, with an offensive line that is going to take time to gel, with a very good defense and a new starting quarterback. So this could be a team that's got to play some 17-14, 24-21 type of games early in the season until that offense comes around. All right, that's part 1 of my SEC West Division preview. Part 2 is coming right up. This is Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review. Here's part 2 of our SEC West Division preview for the upcoming college football season. We left off with Arkansas in part 1. To start part 2, we're going to move on to the Texas A&M Aggies. Texas A&M, a team that really hasn't been a huge factor in the West Division since the Johnny Manziel, Johnny Football days. Pressure seems to be turning up a bit on head coach Kevin Sumlin, and he's starting to feel it too. He's bringing in yet another offensive coordinator, Noel Mazzoni, coming in to take over the OC job after stints with UCLA and Ole Miss. And they've also gone after, well, not really gone after, but they ended up nabbing former Oklahoma quarterback Trevor Knight, who transferred out of Norman, out of the Sooners camp, and is now here at College Station with this Texas A&M team. He will be the starting quarterback for the Aggies. A dual-threat quarterback, is able to move a little bit, which is something that they usually like in this kind of offense. It's going to be a very fast-paced, up-tempo offense, like it often has been here at Texas A&M, with one difference. They want to speed the tempo up even more, but 2, they're really going to look at this being a run-heavy offense. I mean, up-tempo, but they're really going to try to run the football more, take some pressure off Trevor Knight, making his first in his first season here with Texas A&M. The good news is Keith Ford, a solid running back, also transferred to Texas A&M from Oklahoma, and he's a guy definitely, if he stays healthy, has some capabilities. This receiving core is absolutely loaded. I think it's one of the best receiving cores, to be honest, in the conference. I mean, Speedy Noel, Christian Kirk, Ricky Seals-Jones, Josh Reynolds, all of them upperclassmen receivers back in the receiving corps. So plenty of weapons for Knight to throw the football to. Offensive line is the major concern, though. Very much a retooling unit. 2 starters back. So we'll see how quickly that group can can get that chemistry going and get on the right foot. Defense now, second year of defensive coordinator John Chavis in control of that defense, so they should have less of a learning curve, should be able to take strides forward on the defensive side of the football. Myles Garrett, great defensive end, should be able to get a good pass rush going, more depth at linebacker, which is good. They do have 2 new starting cornerbacks in the secondary, which is a little bit of a concern, but the safety spot is very good. 3 of the top 4 tacklers in that secondary overall returning, so that's a positive sign for Texas A&M. Interesting, though, that the kicking game, they're replacing not just 2 good kickers, but 2 excellent kickers. The punter, Taylor Bertolet, Drew Kaiser, the kicker, both gone. So we'll see if A&M has some issues in special teams, particularly early on. Should be an interesting team to monitor here, though, but that offense could take some time, rebuild offensive line, new quarterback, but we'll see how quickly that offense comes around with that Aggies team. Auburn Tigers next up. Auburn looking to bounce back from a 7-6 season last year. It's funny that for all the success Gus Malzahn has had here with this Auburn team, they have one mediocre season, and all of a sudden the locals are getting restless, and there's already chatter that he might be on the hot seat here. We'll see, but the quarterback position battle right now very much wide open with Auburn. Jeremy Johnson, Sean White, John Franklin III, currently still all battling to be the starting quarterback. The word is that Franklin might have an edge, a slight edge, because he's got a little bit more running ability, and Malzahn really likes having a mobile quarterback in his offensive system. So that might have Auburn leaning toward Franklin when it's all said and done. They have a solid running back in Javon Robinson. The receiving core was not very good last year, and although they've got a few new faces, really can't perform any worse than they did last season. Linebacking core, an area of concern with 3 of their top 4 LBs from last season departed. Secondary, those should be improved. 6 of the top 8 are back there. The defensive line looks a little bit stronger, looks a little bit deeper this season. This is the kind of time when maybe it's good to buy low on Auburn, because the expectations aren't high. People aren't, in love with the way that team played last year. This is usually the time when Auburn takes you by surprise and maybe performs better than a lot of people think. I think they could sneak up on some teams. There's no question. I think they have the potential to be a bet-on team early on in the season, solid point spread team. How much it translates to actual straight-up victories remains to be seen. It's still the tough division, tough schedule, but I wouldn't put it past Auburn to be a better team this year here in 2016. All right, last team in our SEC West preview, the Mississippi State Bulldogs, a team that a lot of people seem to think is the de facto choice to be the basement dwellers here in the SEC West this season, and a lot of that probably has to do with Dak Prescott being gone. We're talking about one of the best quarterbacks to ever come through the pipe here at Mississippi State. He was just phenomenal in his years here with the Bulldogs. And now Nick Fitzgerald, Damian Williams, and Nick Tiano, who are in a 3-way quarterback battle, are going to have to take over that starting job. But you don't underestimate a Dan Mullen coach team. He always seems to maximize talent with Mississippi State. They've still got guys that can get the job done. Receiving core looks pretty solid with Fred Ross and Donald Gray returning. The offensive line has more returning career starts back, so that's a good sign. On defense, could be a little bit of a transition with a new coordinator and Peter Sermon, the former DC, Manny Diaz, no longer there. He went to Miami with Mark Richt's coaching staff, so it's a new DC here with Mississippi State. Defensive line, should be strong. 6 of the top 8 back there. The secondary was a source of concern last year. They gave up a lot of big plays in the passing game, but that group should be bolstered by 2 senior starters back. That should be a positive situation and lead to an improved secondary for Mississippi State this season. This is another team that, even though a lot of people are just writing them off, that they're looking at this division just being so powerful and so deep that someone's got to be the basement team in the end, and a lot of people seem to think it's going to be Mississippi State, but don't put it past them to maybe surprise, maybe also be an ATS have an ATS winning record this year. Maybe not a straight-up winning record, but again, against the point spread, there still could be some value on this Mississippi State team. I don't like underselling the Bulldogs, especially with Dan Mullen has been able to get the most out of this team during his tenure here in Starkville. All right, that is it for my look at the SEC West. I've thoroughly enjoyed the last 5 weeks doing these Power 5 college football conference previews. Hope you enjoyed them as well. Hope you got some great information out of them. I'm sports handicapper Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review. Until next time, enjoy the games, good luck, and let's let the college football season begin.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.